What's going on, everybody? My name is Michael Davis, and I am a licensed professional counselor. I'm a fitness enthusiast, and I'm an overall wellness expert. I wanted today to start with a brief video kind of describing what we're trying to do over here at Davis Wellness. Kind of our mission statement, so to speak, what we would like to accomplish. I, for one, would like to really continue to counteract the stigma that is associated with mental health. I don't know if you guys have ever talked to a therapist or met with a counselor and even noted the difference, whether you're a kid and you're going to high school, or you're a kid and you're going to middle school, or maybe you're even younger than that, or you just remember going there. But there's a big difference between a counselor, such as myself, who's a licensed professional counselor, and like a school counselor. A school counselor has a license, or not a license, but they have a degree in teaching, and really their specialty is that. They do a very good job, and they care about everyone out there, and their job is to kind of help with some general things that are going on, but we licensed professional counselors have master's degrees, 7 years of college, which, trust me, that's a long period of time, and we have a lot of different skills, and we work with a lot of different situations. So one thing that I wanted to get into, though, is what mental health actually is. For me, this is my opinion. Mental health is not something where somebody's sick. It really drives me nuts when people come up and they say that they're bipolar, or that they have depression or something like that, because I've never heard anybody say that they are a head cold. Never heard anybody say that they, are the flu. It's just kind of a strange thing to me. And the interesting thing is if you look out there in the physical field, so let's say like a regular doctor, you go to your primary care physician, they can do tests and tell you what your illness is. Easy as that, right? It doesn't work like that in mental health. In mental health, we have a book. It looks exactly like this. This is the DSM-5. And if you end up opening it up to, let's say, some random page here, let's see, major depressive disorder, this is what you get. Alright, this right here has several what they would call symptoms and things like that are associated. And essentially, if you read close enough, what it'll say is if you have so many of the following. So I think this one says over a 2-week period, if you have 5 or more. There's a lot of numbers in there, guys. I think there's 9 of them. So that means depression can be really different for everybody. If you have 5 or more, it can be categorized as major depressive disorder. So if you ask me, it doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It just means that probably we're struggling with something. In fact, all of us could get diagnosed with some kind of mental disorder, so to speak, especially in our lifetime, if not on a week-to-week basis, right? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say, hey, you know what? This is something, if you don't know what to do with it, if you feel kind of alone there, I think that there's always people to talk to, and this is what I would like this channel to be, as a place where we can kind of give information and people can feel more comfortable with this, rather than sitting there and not knowing what is kind of going on with them, or thinking that something is seriously wrong with them, or something else kind of crazy out there. All right. Second thing I would like to do that really, really drives me nuts is provide more effective, meaning things that work, all right, strategies or sustained strategies, things that work more over a period of time as far as coping. Now, if you've ever been to a counselor, or if you've ever talked to somebody about how you deal with stress, how you deal with depression, a lot of times you will hear, hey, you need to have a good coping strategy or way you deal with things, all right? This is really made some people want to throw up because they've heard it so many times, including myself. It almost loses its luster because people are like, hey, you need to walk away, you need to count to 10, you need to do 20 push-ups, you need to listen to music, you need to read a book, you need to, I don't know, go ride a bike, go for a run, something like that. These are all great things, except for in the moment when you are like really, really overwhelmed. A, it's really hard to remember to kind of do those things, and B, they like temporarily work. So if you're like really, really stressed out, you will walk down the hall because somebody's irritating you. You'll come back and you'll be just as irritated when you see their face again. All right. So what we need to do is we need to have some more sustained coping strategies. We need to have strategies that work as far as like in the moment, so you keeps you from freaking out, so to speak, in the moment, and then also are sustained over a period of time so that you don't, I guess, freak out as much, I guess is what you call it. I don't know. I'm trying to think of things that aren't termed as like, I don't know, freaking out is what I kind of call it for myself. All right. So this channel, we would like to provide strategies that will help people be able to do this. Because here's the cool thing. As I was thinking about this, and this really frustrates me, as I will tell people different really cool and really good coping strategies, whether it be, we could go through a bunch of them, whether it be like working out, which is like my personal one, whether it be playing an instrument, whether it be learning something really cool, whether it be like painting, drawing, writing stuff. Some people are really, really creative writers, really creative drawers, designing things. I could go on and on and on, and maybe you guys could share a bunch of these down in the comments below to help people out. And I would love to be able to feature them or put them on this channel. So you could send them to me and we could kind of see what we might be able to do with that, because obviously I can't. If I draw something for you guys, it'd be really, really bad. In fact, give you a good laugh, it might make you feel better. But what I would like to do is be able to have things that you can have, because here's a nice thing, right here, in the palm of your hand, we have cell phones that pretty much everybody carries around. And so when we're having a really difficult time, you can bring up YouTube and we can just be able to cope through things that don't take very long, be able to get through a moment, and then you can be able to get home and decompress and do things that make you feel good about yourself, and be able to sustain that happiness that we really want, okay? Which brings me to my third point. I want to also develop very healthy lifestyles. Now, a healthy lifestyle, guys, is a lot of different things, okay? For one, there's how we sleep, what we eat. I know this really annoys a lot of people, because to me, I'm not a backbreaker as far as what you should be eating, how long you should be sleeping, and things like that, how much you should be exercising. The problem is that there are certain things that are going to really affect our mood, really affect overall how happy we are, and that's a big problem. If we're wanting to go around, I can't think of a better thing to kind of invest your time in than your overall happiness, because trust me, I found in my time on this earth, which has not been very long, well, it's getting longer, I have found that you almost have to make a choice to be happy, guys. All right, there's a lot of things that are going to stress us out there. There's a lot of things that are really important decisions that we have to make, and if we don't do things to try to be happy independent of what happens to us, it's going to be we're going to be jumping from one problem to the next, okay? So developing healthier lifestyles is providing information about, how long, how much, as far as eating, sleeping, exercise, things that we enjoy doing, all that kind of stuff, okay? And being able to give that information out there to people, being able to provide those kind of activities. So as far as mindfulness type stuff, which we can get into in the future videos, mindfulness things, exercise, stuff like that. We'll provide some opportunities on this channel so that people can utilize those at home rather than a therapist like myself or a counselor such as myself who talks about them and then has a really difficult time actually providing them at home or in the situations in which people are struggling with their anxiety or struggling with depression or just feeling down or stressed out or, you know, who the heck knows. I'm using all these terms that really we just kind of came up with here in like the therapy world. I mean, we're just trying to find out a way to describe how people are feeling, try to make sense for themselves, try to make sense for the rest of us, people who provide care for people, but so that people can utilize that at home. That's really frustrating to me because I tell people, hey, this might be really helpful for you. And then I had a difficult time as far as like figuring out a way that logistically I can provide this kind of stuff moving forward, okay? Which brings me to my last point, I guess, as far as my mission statement here at Davis Wellness, and that would be increasing overall happiness. I know that sounds like a really corny thing, but you know what, guys and girls, we will talk about it later. Like, there is a very distinct way that we have to do things in order to be happy. As I just talked about before, there's a lot of things to be overwhelmed about, and I wouldn't blame anybody for getting overwhelmed with those types of things. I also, you're just going to have to take my word for it, will tell you that there are things you can do that will help you feel better despite what kind of crazy, insane, bad thing is going on in your life. And if there is some crazy, bad, insane thing going on in your life, giving you resources for how to get that thing that is happening to maybe stop happening or stop happening as frequently or as intensely, and being able to kind of give some resources towards that. So, one thing I would like to really share with this as well is, because I told you I'm like an exercise enthusiast, I am a true believer in exercise. There's a lot of like therapies out there that we'll also try to touch on as far as in some of these videos and such. There's cognitive behavioral therapy, there's EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing, there's trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, or TFCBT. These are all, including a bunch of other ones, guys, all therapies that have been shown through research to be effective in the treatment of different things, such as like depression or anxiety. And there's also, in the medical field, there is a lot of medications out there, SSRIs, serotonin reuptake inhibitors, so to speak. A lot of pretty decent stuff out there, some of which I'm not a doctor, I'm a professional counselor. The problem is, and I'll talk about some of these in future videos as well, is you have to be careful of like the negative reinforcement loop. And I know that probably doesn't mean a whole lot to some people out there, but we'll kind of talk about that. But there are some really good ones that you take, SSRIs and things like that, I'm okay with. But I also know that a lot of people don't want to take medications, which makes sense to me. I mean, why would you want to put something in your body such as a medication if you can help not doing it, right? So, what I have found, and I will put all the descriptions to this in the link below, provide information so you can look for yourself, because there's a lot of information out there, guys. Don't just take like my word for it. Don't just take somebody who wrote an article about something, whether it be on a website or in the news, or, you know, I don't even know if people read newspapers, but in a newspaper or magazine or something like that. Don't just take somebody's word or opinion about what works for people, okay? Look at the like research. There's actually research that needs to get done regarding certain things about the effectiveness of certain, whether you call it treatments or things that work for people, okay? And they have found that in the treatment of anxiety, moderate anxiety and depression, that exercise is more effective than most psychotropic medications. So some of those like SSRIs and all those, that kind of stuff. Also, they have found that, I think it's number 3, try not to quote me on that, I'll actually have to look up that research myself, that was one that I seen, and I didn't exactly just have on hand, so I'll have to look it up, so don't tear me up in the comment section below, guys, if I get this completely wrong. But I know as far as they're looking at pre-existing conditions with all this stuff going on, at least here in the United States, as far as healthcare and things like that, and I think anxiety and depression were right up there in the top 5, at least the top 10. And so if we could find ways to counteract that, that didn't involve medication, I think people would really, really appreciate that. And they actually even say in these articles that I'll provide in the link below that some people's opinions is they feel like it's a little crazy that therapists do not use exercise as a means for treatment, but we will use things like cognitive behavioral therapy, and we will use things like, EMDR, stuff like that, in order to do treatment of other things, when actually exercise has been shown to be really effective in the treatment of anxiety and depression, which is what the majority of people who have mental health concerns come in for. So that is what the mission statement of Davis Wellness is about. We're going to start trying to elicit, because of the lack of resources that we have and time. I mean, you have most of the time 50 minutes to an hour session, and if I'm seeing a bunch of people per week, there's only so many hours in the day in order to do exercises or things like that, as far as me running stuff like that. So I would like to do a few things, at least as an introduction online, kind of see how things go. And then maybe even provide things in the future if people would really desire that, as far as coming and doing some kind of classes or something like that, because some people do a little bit better with motivation or groups or things like that, right? And we could try to figure that out. So please subscribe in the link below if you want to, and to get more information, get more videos that pop up. Make sure you leave some comments, and I will leave information about my contact information, where my practice is, email address, things like that, so that people can leave me comments, let me know how things are going, give me some insights about some of the cool stuff that you guys are doing, and I greatly appreciate it. And so until next time, guys.